Robservations with Robert, Meyer, Burnett.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your evangelist of the imagination, and, of course, your existential Mr. Rogers. That's right, me, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I'm once again robcasting at you imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek. You guys are just a Post-Geek imagination connoisseur. I mean, there's so many names. The important thing is, you're part of this community. The Post-Geek Singularity has been an important, thriving community, and you imagination connoisseurs are part of that. And you know what? I've decided to start a new show. Shattering announcement, you're getting it right off the bat. Our new show is going to be called the Robservations Midnighter. That's right, probably for an hour and a half. Each midnight, Monday through Thursday, it's going to be a new show. I'm not going to be drinking, not like Midnight Metal. It's different from Midnight Metal, but it's the Robservations Midnighter beginning tonight at midnight Pacific time, an emphasis on the community here. As we've seen over the course of the last couple weeks, having you imagination connoisseurs on this show has been quite fun, and I'm going to keep doing that, keep encouraging people to come on the show and have open discussions with imagination connoisseurs. Every subject under the sun is open to talk about, but I think it's going to be something fun to do. Of course, I'm not going to be here getting hammered like I do on Midnight Metal. I'm going to stay lucid. I'm going to be drinking water, maybe tea, whatever floats my boat. But it's going to be a way that we can increase the sense of community, meet some of you lovely people. So if you'd like to be on Midnight Metal, as you've seen, or Midnight Metal, on the Robservations Midnighter, the way I do it is I randomly will drop a link into the show, and once you do that, people will be able to come on, and as one person leaves, another person can come on. I would just ask that please have a pretty decent microphone and camera set up so we can hear and see you lovely people. Also, one other thing. Today, my friends, as I leave this show, I'm going to stop this show about 4 o'clock, and I'm out of here. I'm going down to Burbank. And I'm going to meet my friends Cliff Stevenson and, of course, John Campia. And we are going to see Fast 9. The day has come. Will justice be served? I know you want to know the answer to that as much as I do. I mean, there is an embargo. The movie doesn't open for a month. But I will tell you this. Upon emerging from the theater, I will do a quick reaction video. Or maybe I can't do a reaction video. I can just tweet, social media, whatever I say. I'm either going to tell you if justice was served or not. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm very, very excited. This day has seen the end of Kenobi, and soon it will see the end of the rebellion. No, justice for Han, will it be served? My God. And I don't know if that's a spoiler alert or not. Does it need a spoiler alert? Is that spoiling anything if I say conceptually has justice for Han been served or not? I mean, I can't say how or why. It either is or it hasn't been. Or maybe that question will linger into the next 2 films, which is supposed to cap off the Fast and the Furious franchise with 2 more movies that will end the trilogy. Who knows? I'll tell you what I do know. Today, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gentle beings, kind souls, for all of you people across the 28 known galaxies, some staggering entertainment news dropped. I know you've seen it plastered all over the internet, but now it's my turn. I talked about it a lot on the John Campia show today, but there's been a few more things that have dropped since then as this story develops. It is a big story. The first time I heard about this was maybe Friday, that suddenly, like out of the blue. Let me just I'll read the deadline story so you can all understand in the simplest terms what's going on. So as we all know, At&T bought Warner Brothers, and they created a new company, Warner Media. that was going to concentrate on creating streaming content that AT&T hoped to be able to deliver across its many different platforms and infrastructure that it had already put into place, which seems good on paper. But you know what? If you ask the Kinney Shoe Company, which used to own Warner Brothers in the 70s, yes, that's true, they did. If you see early Warner Brothers movies from like the early 70s, if they haven't changed the opening logo, you can actually see a Kinney Shoe Company or a Kinney Company or whatever on the actual Warner Brothers logo at the beginning of films. That always cracked me up. When I was a kid, I'm like, a shoe company used to own Warner Brothers? Well, so AT&T was hoping that, yes, we're just going to be able to, it's all going to be under one roof. The content, the content that we're streaming over our own wireless networks or wired networks, whatever, we're going to make that too. Well, didn't quite work out as planned. See, it's really hard. What people don't understand is everyone thinks that Hollywood is just a place you go to print money. That is not true. Making lots of money in Hollywood is difficult. It's not that it can't be done. I mean, if you have a hit television show that ends up being syndicated all over the world, you can get very rich. I have friends that have made tens of millions of dollars because they've been involved, even in a small way, with creating television shows that that run for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, sometimes even more years. And that is incredibly lucrative. If you're part of a hit film, you can make a lot of money. I know someone that made $40 million off their last film, and that was in bonuses after the film had come out. So there's a lot of money to be made in Hollywood if you know what you're doing and if you have reasonable expectations. But anyway, so this dropped. Jill Goldsmith wrote this article. It was on Deadline this morning at 4:39 in the morning. This breaking news was developing all weekend long, and it finally became a reality. The first time I ever heard about this was on Friday, so I couldn't have been the only one. AT&T's Warner Media and Discovery to merge, create new company led by David Zaslav. AT&T and Discovery on Monday announced a definitive agreement to combine Warner Media's premium entertainment, sports, and news assets with Discovery's leading nonfiction and international entertainment and sports businesses to create a premier, standalone global entertainment company led by Discovery CEO David Zaslav. It is my hope that they will finally rectify a huge mistake that HBO Max made, which was they should name this company with something to do with the Warner Brothers name, the venerable name of Warner Brothers. Now, I don't know what they would call it. I mean, maybe they want to retain the name Discovery too, but you have Warner Brothers that it's a Tiffany name. It's a gold standard name. I would rename whatever their company is going to be Warner Brothers Discovery, Discovery Warner Brothers. I'd put Warner Brothers first. And maybe their new streaming service should be called something like, I would say Warner Brothers Universe or something, but that might be too, in terms of Universal, too close. Maybe Warner Brothers Cosmos or something like that, that indicates that there is a wide variety, an infinite variety of programming. I don't know what they're going to call it. They don't know what this new company is going to be called. But anyway, under the terms of the agreement, which is structured as an all-stock transaction, AT&T would receive $43 billion in a combination of cash, debt securities, and Warner Media's retention of certain debt. And AT&T shareholders would receive stock representing 71% of the new company. Discovery shareholders would own 29% of the new company. The name of the company hasn't been determined, nor has the management structure. For now, Jason Kilar remains CEO of Warner Media, said AT&T's John Stankey at a press conference early Monday. Since then, it has been reported that Jason Kilar, who was running Warner Media, is looking for a way out. He has retained counsel and is going to be out of there. Who will take over? I don't know. I think they should call Alan Horn or Bob Iger. David's got decisions on what he wants to do or who will be and what that role will be moving forward. The boards of both AT&T and Discovery have approved the transaction, so it has gone down. It's already been approved. The partners said today the new company will compete globally in the fast-growing direct-to-consumer business, bringing compelling content to Discovery's subscribers across its portfolio, including HBO Max and the recently launched Discovery Plus. It will combine Warner Media's storied content library of popular and valuable IP With Discovery's global footprint, trove of local language content, and deep regional expertise across more than 200 countries and territories. The new company will be able to invest in more original content for its streaming services, enhance the programming options across its global linear pay TV and broadcast channels, and offer more innovative video experiences and consumer choices. It's important to know that HBO Max is not around the rest of the world yet, whereas Discovery is. So in terms of good ideas, this merger, I have to say, is a great idea for both companies. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. The transition is anticipated to close in mid-2022, subject to approval by Discovery shareholders and customary closing conditions, including receipt of regulatory approvals. No vote is required by AT&T shareholders. Agreements are in place with Liberty Media's John Malone and Advance to vote in favor of the transaction. The new company's board of directors will consist of 13 members, 7 initially appointed by AT&T, including the chairperson of the board. Discovery will initially appoint 6 members, including Zaslav. This agreement unites 2 entertainment leaders with complementary content strengths and positions the new company to be one of the leading global direct-to-consumer streaming platforms, says AT&T CEO John Stankey. It will support the fantastic growth and international launch of HBO Max with Discovery's global footprint and create efficiencies which can be reinvested in producing more great content to give consumers what they want. During my many conversations with John, we always come back to the same simple and powerful strategic principles. These assets are better and more valuable together. It is super exciting to combine such historic brands, world-class journalism, and iconic franchises under one roof and unlock so much value and opportunity, said Zaslav. With a library of cherished IP, dynamite management teams, and global expertise in every market in the world, we believe everyone wins. Consumers with more diverse choices, talent and storytellers with more resources and compelling pathways to larger audiences, and shareholders with a globally scaled growth company committed to a strong balance sheet that is better positioned to compete with the world's largest streamers. So, pretty amazing stuff happening there. There's a lot. There's so much to unpack, and I'd like to read another article that was in the LA Times, and this was in the LA Times on May 16th. So before this was actually officially announced or these details were revealed, so this was May 16th, which was yesterday, and this was published at 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the news had gone down on Sunday. So this was in the LA Times yesterday. AT&T to spin off HBO, other Warner Media assets in a huge deal with Discovery. What went wrong? 3 years ago, this is by Meg James and Stephen Battaglio. And again, it was published yesterday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. 3 years ago, AT&T marched into Hollywood with big ambitions to be a 21st century media colossus, connecting its booming cell phone business with legendary media properties, HBO, the Warner Brothers Film and TV Studio, and Turner channels, including cable news juggernaut CNN. Now, the company is retreating from those plans. Daunted by the challenges of competing in the streaming age and shackled by a mountain of debt, the Dallas communications behemoth is poised to spin off its entertainment assets into a new venture with cable programming company Discovery, which owns HGTV, the Food Network, and Animal Planet, according to people familiar with the matter who are not authorized to comment. The companies are expected to announce their proposed joint venture as early as Monday, which they obviously have, these people said. Bloomberg News first reported that AT&T and Discovery were in advanced talks to merge their entertainment properties. The deal would reshape Hollywood, which has already witnessed dramatic contraction after Walt Disney Company's $71 billion acquisition of much of Rupert Murdoch's entertainment empire in 2019. Legacy media companies laid off thousands of workers last year during the COVID-19 pandemic as they've witnessed an exodus of once loyal viewers to Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney+. The proposed new venture would unite one of the world's biggest producers of unscripted programming, Discovery, with Warner Media, a preeminent producer of movies including Godzilla vs. Kong and Wonder Woman, and such TV shows as Game of Thrones, The Voice, and The Bachelor. The proposed transaction, which would require the approval of federal regulators, would mark a stunning retreat for AT&T, which spent $85 billion 3 years ago to buy Time Warner, the owner of CNN, HBO, TBS, TNT, and the storied Warner Brothers film and TV studio. AT&T now appears ready to jettison these assets, although AT&T investors are expected to remain stakeholders. What a dismal failure, and what an embarrassing chapter for what was once one of America's most storied companies, telecommunications analyst Craig Moffett said. Company representatives declined to comment on Sunday. Many Warner Media executives were stunned by the news, but some industry analysts were not. AT&T always had to figure out what to do with Warner Media, said Brian Weiser, who heads the research unit at New York advertising giant Group M. The company was not optimally positioned to maximize the value of Warner Media because it had all these other obligations. AT&T found itself stretched financially as it simultaneously tried to build a nationwide 5G telephone network while ramping up spending for its year-old streaming service, HBO Max. The proposed deal with Discovery comes just 3 months after AT&T spun off another troubled asset, El Segundo-based Directv. See, I just want to emphasize here that it's one thing for AT&T to say, you know what, we're going to get into our own, we're going to make our own content and stream it over our own 5G networks. Well, those are two very, 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 very different businesses. And while the idea might be sound, AT&T is not an entertainment company, and they found out they deliver entertainment through their systems, but they discovered that running an entertainment company is not nearly as profitable, one, as you might think, or it's not as easy as if you're, providing phone service and you know how much money you're going to take in every month. It's a very different thing. For Discovery, the deal would represent a major win. The New York cable programmer, which is worth $16 billion, has long recognized that it needed more scale to effectively compete in the streaming world. While it does churn out popular nonfiction programming, including Property Brothers, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and Naked and Afraid, it lacks a large portfolio of premium scripted shows. Discovery Chief Executive David Zaslav is expected to run the combined venture. Last year, Zaslav acquired the 3,900-square-foot Beverly Hills mansion that was home to the late movie mogul Robert Evans, telling friends that he wanted to spend more time in Los Angeles. Well, I guess Charlie Bluedorn might be happy about that. Another big winner would be CNN President Jeff Zucker, who also oversees Warner Media's Turner Sports. Zucker announced in January that he planned to leave the company at the end of 2021 when his contract expires, but Zucker has a close friendship with Zaslav going back to the days when they were both ambitious executives scaling the corporate ranks at NBC. A close associate of Zucker at CNN, who spoke on the condition of anonymity, said Zucker would probably stick around should Zaslav oversee the new venture. Under Zucker's tenure, CNN has delivered strong financial results for the news channel. Insiders said he'd become disillusioned by the AT&T imposed cost-cutting that has occurred at Warner Media. A Discovery-Warner Media combination would probably end rumors that AT&T might sell CNN. Whatever streaming service that evolves out of a new venture would probably showcase CNN, as news programming is a strong draw for consumers. In addition, CNN also has a global profile and name recognition. Discovery's chairman is John Malone, a shrewd investor who is largely credited as being one of the pioneers of the pay TV business. In 1999, he sold his cable TV business to AT&T for $55 billion, becoming AT&T's largest investor, but Malone eventually wound down his stake to concentrate on his Liberty Global business. In recent years, Malone has been outspoken about the coming age of consolidation, saying that unaffiliated media companies would find themselves too small to compete against tech giants. AT&T has faced growing pressure from investors, many of whom were frustrated by the company's stock price and skeptical of the company's costly foray into entertainment, a strategy championed by AT&T chief executive John Stankey and his predecessor Randall Stevenson, who retired last summer. AT&T's acquisition spree of Time Warner in 2018 and Directv in 2015 left the company heavily indebted. As of March 31st, the company had $180 billion in debt. In recent years, that's right, $180 billion. In recent years, AT&T's stock has underperformed, closing Friday at $32.24, despite a huge run-up in competing media stocks, including Walt Disney, Viacom, CBS, Comcast Corp, and Charter Communications. AT&T's shares traded around $39 when it was announced, when the Time Warner deal was announced in October of 2016. Warner Media has experienced upheaval since Stankey took control of the media company. He instructed his lieutenants to focus on building toward the streaming future, but there were immediately clashes. Veteran Time Warner executives resisted, believing that the phone executives knew little about running best-in-class entertainment businesses, which is true. Within months, much of the top brass, including Time Warner CEO Jeff Bewkes, HBO chief Richard Plepler, and Turner Broadcasting chief John Martin, were gone. Adding to the turmoil, Warner Brothers studio chief Kevin Tsujihara was forced to resign amid a sex scandal with an actress. Always a good thing to do when you're the head of a studio, get involved with an actress. New high-level managers were hired as Warner Media sped toward its May 2020 launch of HBO Max. The rollout in the middle of the pandemic was complicated by the shutdown of TV and movie production. The HBO Max launch came just 3 months after the lackluster debut of another streaming service, AT&T TV, which was positioned as the next generation of Directv. AT&T TV, which offers live-action channels, was a disappointment. So was HBO Max, by the way. Why they called it HBO Max? No man can say. While HBO Max has grown its subscriber base over the last 11 months, it boasts 44 million subscribers to the legacy HBO channels and HBO Max. It lags far behind Netflix, which has more than 200 million subscribers worldwide. Burbank-based Disney is another early winner in the streaming wars. AT&T last year committed to spend $2 billion on original content for HBO Max, but that is just a fraction of Netflix's $16 billion a year content budget. I have heard this new company plans on spending $20 billion a year. Discovery and whatever it's going to be called, Warner Media, Discovery, who knows. Inside Warner Media, top executives lobbied to increase the programming budget for HBO Max, requesting $4 billion a year to create programming, but were rebuffed, according to a former executive who is not authorized to comment. Instead, the service relies heavily on the rich treasures from the Warner Brothers and HBO libraries of content, including Game of Thrones, Friends, and Casablanca. Stankey last year tapped former Hulu architect Jason Kilar to lead the company. Kilar oversaw restructurings that cut 2,000 jobs. He also angered Hollywood producers and directors with Warner Media's strategy to release movies in theaters the same day they premiered on HBO Max, a strategy that I've been told was Toby Emmerich's idea. It's unclear what role he will have in the new company. Additionally, HBO Max suffered because it is among the most expensive streaming services on the market, costing subscribers $15 a month. Industry executives said Sunday they expect the new venture to be structured similarly to the AT&T spinoff Directv. In February, after losing millions of subscribers, AT&T said it would transfer all of its U.S.-based pay TV businesses, including AT&T TV and Uverse, into a new company called Directv. AT&T plans to own 70% of this new entity. Its partner, TPG Capital, agreed to pay $1.8 billion for its 30% stake in the company and assumed management control. Discovery's streaming service, Discovery Plus, has 15 million subscribers worldwide. Zaslav has touted Discovery Plus, the company's streaming service launched in January, as a second purchase for consumers who already had Netflix or Disney Plus. He told CNBC in December he fully expected consolidation in the streaming landscape. Will there be 3? Will there be 4? There's not going to be 7, Zaslav said. In some way, it will be reconjugated. We think there will be a rebundling. That rebundling, our job is to make sure we're absolutely essential, but I'm not sure everybody has all the cards, or anybody has all the cards. Something else, quick notion. This was on PSU today. Warner Brothers Games is being broken up in a new merger between Warner Brothers and Discovery. Warner Brothers Games, who are currently working on titles like Hogwarts Legacy, Gotham Knights, and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, are being broken up in some way as part of a new merger between Warner Brothers' parent company, AT&T, and Discovery. The details of the merger are that both Discover, I keep saying Discovery. It's Discover. Or is it Discovery? It is Discovery. Discovery and Warner Media will merge to form a new company with AT&T, spinning off its media brand. First revealed by IGN's Julia Alexander, who confirmed that this new sale merger does include some of WB Games, but not all of the studio's properties it owns. An AT&T representative then told Axios' Stephen Totilo that some of the gaming arm will stay with AT&T and some will go with the new company. No further details were offered, and it isn't clear where big studios like Mortal Kombat developer NetherRealm and Middle-earth team Monolith Productions will end up. On top of that, what is the fate of TT Games, who developed the incredibly successful Lego games? The chances any of these projects or games getting canceled seems unlikely, but right now a lot is still up in the air and unconfirmed. We will have more information in the coming days and be sure to update you. So there you go there. Warner Brothers Games, which is obviously a big earner. A lot of craziness happening here. A lot of craziness. Let's see. Now, here's another article. Frank Pallotta and Carrie Flynn on CNN Business wrote this, and they published this. It's brand new. Just went up 4:17 Eastern Time, so about a little over an hour ago. So this article is called Why You Should Care About Discovery and Warner Media Merging. New York. Discovery is an iconic brand in the cable world, as are CNN and HBO. Warner Brothers, the home of franchises such as DC and Harry Potter, is one of the most influential studios in Hollywood. Now all of these brands are coming together in hopes of not just surviving, but thriving in a media industry that is diving deeper into streaming. On Monday morning, AT&T and Discovery Incorporated sent shockwaves through the media and entertainment world when it was announced that a deal spins off AT&T's Warner Media, which is the parent company of CNN, and it combines it with Discovery in a new standalone company. The deal, which won't take effect until mid-2020, has the potential to create a media powerhouse, one that's not just capable of competing with Netflix and Disney, but could alter the streaming wars as we know it. So what does all of this mean for consumers? Well, for starters, there's about to be a new company that can go pound for pound with any other when it comes to content. The pairing of Warner Media and Discovery offers a cornucopia from which consumers can pick. Warner Brothers, HBO, CNN, Discovery Channel, Food Network, HGTV, TLC, the Cartoon Network, Animal Planet, Turner Sports, TNT, TBS, Oprah Winfrey's Own will all be under the same umbrella. Discovery said on Monday that the new company, which has yet to be named, will own one of the deepest libraries in the world with nearly 200,000 hours of iconic programming and bring together over 100 brands. In the past, that sprawling lineup of cable channels would have primarily provided media companies enormous leverage in negotiating carriage deals with cable and satellite companies. But the focus now, with many cable subscribers cutting the cord and pursuing a more a la carte approach to entertainment content, is on stocking the shelves of streaming services, taking the middleman out of the equation. The competition there notably includes not only other major studios, such as Disney's portfolio of services, but deep-pocketed corporations like Amazon and Apple, as well as established leader Netflix. David Zaslav, the CEO of Discovery, who will run the combined business, said Monday that the company plans to spend even more on content in the future. This could mean consumers will end up paying more for streaming services. Netflix and Disney Plus both raised their prices in the past year. It also creates more challenges for the other streaming players, such as NBC Universal with Peacock and Viacom CBS with Paramount Plus. These companies could also seek to merge with other media companies to better compete on scale. But if Discovery Plus and HBO Max are bundled together, which would follow the same strategy as Disney's bundle of Disney Plus alongside Hulu and ESPN, it will offer consumers an eclectic yet deep grouping of programming. There would be blockbuster movies like Wonder Woman, hit scripted series like Game of Thrones, unscripted series like 90 Day Fiancé, news via CNN, and sports via Turner Sports. This lineup could also give the new company a leg up on its rivals, Netflix and Disney, which have gotten more into unscripted programming but lack in certain areas. For example, Netflix doesn't offer news and sports content. A Discovery and Warner Media combo will yield more kids programming thanks to Cartoon Network and Animal Planet, both of which include more adult fare compared to Disney's family-friendly offerings. However, Disney does control National Geographic, a direct competitor to Discovery, and one of the planks of Disney Plus, which has more than 100 million subscribers. The key to direct-to-consumer is having content that people love. But in this competitive world that we're in right now, it's not good enough to have content that people love, Zaslav said on a call with investors Monday morning. You've got to have content that people love so much that they would run home and pay for it before they pay for dinner or the roof over their head. Away from how this new company might compete with its rivals, combining the two companies also makes sense since they're pretty complementary, which should please consumers who spend a lot of time trying to find something to watch. Warner Media's focus is prestige scripted entertainment as well as news and sports. Discovery, conversely, has been a market leader for decades in crafting addictive, high-end, unscripted entertainment from diners, drive-ins, and dives with Guy Fieri to Shark Week to Fixer Upper. Those two areas pair well together and are an attractive offering for consumers looking for a service that offers a one-stop shop. I think we fit together like a glove, Zaslav said Monday. While there seems to be enormous potential for content, Zaslav acknowledged that it's still unknown what type of product or how many products Discovery and Warner Media will offer. Currently, HBO Max is $14.99 a month and Discovery Plus is $4.99 a month with ads and $6.99 without. HBO Max is planning an ad-based version as well. We have plenty of time to figure it out, Zaslav said on CNBC when asked about a Discovery Warner Media bundle. But the evolution of media is happening at a breakneck pace. Case in point, AT&T's $85 billion deal to acquire Time Warner was just 3 years ago. So a lot can happen between now and when the deal is finalized next year. Also, Discovery and Warner Media will have to figure out the new structure of this company so they can put the right people in the right places to create content that lures in subscribers in a highly competitive market. Still, Zaslav expressed optimism on Monday about the combined company. We're positioned to get 200 million homes, 300 million homes, because we have all the content that people love. I think coming together, we're not just better together, I think we're the best media company in the world together, he told CNN's Poppy Harlow on Monday. This rejigger puts us on a path to give us every opportunity on the media side to be a real force. And he is correct. They are complementary. This kind of thing, I mean, basically you've jumped into the big leagues, straight into the big leagues with this. Now, of course, as many of you know, there's I would call this person a very trusted. He's somebody in Hollywood that I know who's the most successful person in Hollywood that I know, and I frequently ask this person to comment on things. For me, so I can better understand them. And I this morning I got up and I was reading this information and I sent this person this email. I said, David Zaslav, Discovery CEO, will now be running the film division at Warner Brothers. David Zaslav apparently will, in fact, I mean, he's running the whole company, but he'll be running the film division at Warner Brothers, which, you know, currently people like Toby Emmerich and Jason Kilar were handling. So we know Jason Kilar is out, and I'm sure Toby Emmerich, who we know was trying to get a job at Netflix, he was instrumental in getting the day and date strategy for Warner Brothers to put out movies on HBO Max and in theaters at the same time. We know he's been looking for a way out, so these two guys are probably both gone, but pretty interesting. But so I asked, will now be running the film division at Warner Brothers. Forgive me, but what the F does that guy know about movie making? Between Disney adding their distribution execs in place over those in charge of content creation and now this, where are the bosses who understand movie making? Will people like Jason Kilar and Toby Emmerich been shown the door? As I wrote to him, I said, you're the only person I know who will have any real insight into this. If you have the time, I'd love to have any thoughts as to how to address this. Because I knew we were going to talk about this on John's show, and I knew we were going to talk about it here on our show. And so, first of all, I want to thank this person for taking the time out of their incredibly busy day to write me back this email. It's pretty amazing that there were thousands of employees of Warner Brothers who went into this weekend thinking they worked for one of the greatest studios in Hollywood, only to wake up Monday morning to learn that they now worked for one of the biggest reality TV companies in the world, that is Discovery, and David Zaslav, their CEO. The speed in which AT&T bailed out of their content creation ambitions took most people by surprise. However, the writing was on the walls whenever AT&T tried to mask their lackluster streaming numbers for HBO Max. Unlike Disney and Netflix, where the numbers they released were somewhat easy to comprehend, AT&T gave numbers that you needed to decipher and guess what they actually meant. This was a strong indication that AT&T was embarrassed about them and knew that shareholders would bail on them if they knew the truth. Although it would have made more sense if Comcast merged with Peacock with HBO Max. Or if it would make more sense if Comcast merged Peacock with HBO Max, but AT&T would not have gotten as high of a valuation in that potential merger. Who knows? Maybe David Zaslav will eventually move on to try and acquire Viacom or even Comcast. Look at what Sumner Redstone did when he built up Viacom and eventually acquired CBS, or even when Endeavor took over William Morris. Sometimes the smaller players eventually come out on top if the bigger fish aren't careful. But yes, to answer your question about Jason and Toby, I think their days are certainly numbered. That explains why there have been published reports that Toby Emmerich has been trying to get a job at Netflix. Toby probably knew that Discovery would be taking over his company and saw that his contract was coming up during the closing window. Usually, in these cases where a top-level executive's contract is coming up, where a major change is anticipated, that executive would get a contract extension to ensure that they have a place in the new configuration. I suspect that they had told Toby that they would not give him that contract extension he desired. Frankly, I don't blame the current management because Toby has taken one of the greatest Hollywood studios to one of the last places where talent wants to work. I could write a whole thesis on how the legacy of Warner Brothers was destroyed the moment Kevin Tsujihara and Toby Emmerich took the reins of the studio. The chummy, quote, bro culture, unquote, will continue to exist until some major change takes place. So yes, David Zaslav is going to reshape the film business for Warner Brothers. But I am hoping that he can make the right decisions to bring Warner Brothers back to some sort of normalcy. Frankly, it can't be any worse than what AT&T was doing with the studio. That's a long way of saying there's bound to be some massive changes at Warner Brothers, but it couldn't be any worse than the path they were on with AT&T. Once again, I want to thank this person, somebody who I have great respect for and admire, and who has done very, very well in the industry. So I'm very happy that they took time out of their busy day to write me back this email to offer some illumination. So thank you very much, sir. Anyway, the way I look at it is the way sort of I've always looked at this, the streaming wars and all of these things. At the end of the day, it comes down to one thing, and one thing only: making great content. But there's the rub. It ain't easy. And as always, we're now going to have executives at media conglomerates who are basically in charge of distributing the content that others are making. And I think the real way that any of these people are going to be truly successful is what Warner Brothers, ironically, used to do best. They built long-standing relationships with their talent. Warner Brothers still has those long-standing relationships, or they did, with people like Christopher Nolan. But reading some of his commentary on what happened with Tenet and how the studio was treating him and treating his film, even though he wanted to be there to open up studios, which I understand. I mean, you don't want to lose a talent like that from the studio. You don't want to piss them off. So maybe, Christopher Nolan had Warner Brothers as a great base of operations. Anyone would be happy to take him away from Warner Brothers. Maybe they'll stick around. Denis Villeneuve, here he is in the middle of post-production on Dune, and they tell him, we're going to day and date. All the movies coming out in 2021 are going to come out day and date on HBO Max and in the theater. Can you imagine what it's like to be working on arguably your biggest movie, your most important movie that you've ever made, a brand new potential tentpole feature, and you find out it might debut on HBO Max? How disheartening and demoralizing is that? Now, I understand things are different, but they didn't even tell the filmmakers. They made a unilateral decision, and this is the problem. Corporate interests, I've always said that corporate interests are over here. They work a certain way. They've got their own culture and all that. And then you have the movie business, content creators over here. These two things, the way business is done, diametrically opposed. So, but yet this needs this in order to work. So it has been a push-pull since the dawn of time. And as bigger and bigger corporations are acquiring these things, and you have these CEOs that are overseeing twice as many networks and 5 times as much content, what you really need, and I think they will do this, they need to put someone in place. They need to find a new studio head at Warner Brothers whose business is to be in front of, be at the forefront to make great content, not somebody who's just biding time before they get their golden parachute in their production deal and gets to parachute out and then gets to produce movies. You need somebody that's going to make Warner Brothers as a studio, Warner Brothers and its great legacy, their mission in life, and I don't know who that is, to be honest. But somebody that, if the last thing they do is bring Warner Brothers and restore the luster, bring it back to greatness, and be making movies that are lauded by audiences and critics and everybody the world over, that's what the studio really needs. And I don't know how many people on the planet Earth can do that. But we need somebody there that really understands movie making, that has talent contacts throughout the industry, that is also well-liked. I mean, not an easy thing to do, but that's certainly definitely some direction that they're going to have to go in. So it's pretty crazy. I mean, the whole thing, we're living through some crazy ass times. So it'll be very interesting to see where it all winds up. And I don't know enough. I don't know enough. So that's why I ask people. So, who knows? It's hard to say. I think at the end of the day, all of these companies, they have to keep making great content. And in a way, if you're a content maker, if you're making films and television and all that, I see there's a lot of opportunity out there. But then on the other hand, there's a lot of ways that independent filmmakers are going to get, let's just say, maybe not the compensation that they want. It is a tough business. So we'll see how it is going to work out. I don't know, but all I'm looking forward to, I think that they can only do a better job than At&T was doing. I think this new company, obviously, they're even Discovery, they are in the content making business. So I think in the long run, AT&T's acquisition of Warner Brothers was sort of diametrically opposed to their core business. And now with Warner Media and Discovery merging, it really is all about content creation. They're not worried about their 5G network. They're doing what they always do, which is make shows people want to see. So I think that is a good thing. So there you go. Here's an interesting letter from David Miller. For a change of pace. Greetings, Rob. I hope you had a great birthday. I did. Anyway, you know me. I'm a uniter, not a divider, and I like to help where I can. And I would like to help this current Star Trek movie franchise, and not in a J.J. Kurtzman or Chabon way. Even the most middling piece of cinematic fare usually has some good elements. I'm no fan of Star Trek Beyond, awful title, but I'm sure everyone agrees that Sofia Boutella's character Jayla was the best thing to come out of it. Her look and backstory were her Clan of the Cave Bear look. Her look and backstory were the most Star Trek thing about the film. I suggest we follow Jayla's journey to Starfleet officer. The film should take place on a training cruise with Jayla meeting fan faves Janice Rand, Kevin Riley, Mr. Kyle, and commanded by Number One. And while we're at it, where was Number One in Star Trek 09? If Pike is still commanding the Enterprise, then Number One should have been his first officer, but I digress. So we have a lower-budget Star Trek movie by using secondary characters who are underserved but still have their fan base. I think Jayla could be a breakout character, a la Spock. We could have bookend cameos by Pine and or Spock or Bones, also to keep the budget down. I'm sure this goes against conventional wisdom for a successful film, but spreadsheet producing doesn't seem to be working these days, so why not try something out of the box? Because of Boutella's youthful appearance and her makeup, I think she could still play the character she originated over 5 years ago in that time frame. So that's it. That's what I'd like to see. What do you think of this kind of Star Trek movie? Who would you cast as a young Janice Rand, Kyle or Riley? I'd love to hear your thoughts. My best to you, David Miller. Well, David, it's hard for me to picture people right off the top of my head casting. I mean, I that could be interesting. I mean, if you wanted to do a Starfleet Academy type of a movie with Jayla, that could be interesting, using all those legacy characters. I think that's not necessarily a bad idea. The problem is I don't think it's a feature film idea. You know, that's more of a series idea. I could see them going that way. But again, I just don't know. Look, I still think they should go back and make Star Trek: The Beginning, the Eric Jedrinson script that takes place canonically about 8 years after the end of Enterprise, that deals with the outbreak of the Romulan Earth War. I really like that script. I really like the concepts that are in it. So I don't know if that would ever happen, but that's, if I could take Star Trek in any direction, that's where I would go. That's where I would go. This letter comes from Prestonian. Prestonian says, "Hey, Rob, I thought I would send in a last-minute birthday wish. By the time you read this on the show, it'll be 2 days later, so happy belated birthday." It is, in fact, Prestonian, 2 days later. I hope you had a terrific weekend with Elizabeth. I did. I was driving Lyft earlier this week, and I had Robservations playing in the background. Towards the end of the night, when your show ended, another video popped up randomly, and I couldn't figure out what it was until I heard they started talking about William Shatner. And then your voice came on, and you were talking about him. I didn't immediately realize who it was because you sounded a bit different. The vid went on to talk about how you and Shatner and someone else got together to read a script that you'd written. I didn't realize this about you, that you had written a script that Shatner had liked. Anyway, when I was done driving for the night, I was finally able to look at my phone, and I saw that the video was quite old. Maybe it was from the 2000s. I never finished the video, nor was I able to go back and find it. When did this happen? It seems that there is so much more to your story than I know. You always say everyone has a story to tell, and I believe, sir, that you have many stories to tell. If you know what I'm talking about, please indulge us. Perhaps you've told this story on the show, but I've definitely missed it. Maybe I haven't watched this show long enough either. Anyway, have yourself a better day. Sincerely, the Prestonian. Well, it's really, it's kind of funny because, I've done so many things in my career, and I never know when you're talking to people what they do and what they don't know about you. And you, Mr. Prestonian, I have to say there's something about me you don't know. And that's fine. Why should you? But back in 1999, on June 4th, 1999, a movie that I directed, I co-wrote and edited. I directed, edited, and co-wrote the film came out called Free Enterprise. It's a feature film that stars Eric McCormack, Emmy winner Eric McCormack, and Emmy winner William Shatner. It also stars Deborah Van Valkenburg, who we love from The Warriors, or Too Close for Comfort, or Streets of Fire, and a bunch of other great people. Rafer Weigel, who is the son of Tim Weigel, and Patrick Van Horn, who starred in Swingers, and Phil Lamar, Jonathan Slavin, and a great cast. Audie England, who starred in Solomon King's Delta Venus, And it was a story sort of loosely based on my life and my co-writer's life, Mark Altman, what it was like to sort of be living in LA in the mid-90s. And it's out of print. It didn't do very well financially because we didn't have much of a budget to promote it, and the internet wasn't what it is now. So I would love to raise money and buy the negative from our original investor. It's kind of been sitting since 2006. I'd like to do just spruce up the film and make it a little bit more modern, tweak it a little bit, make it a little better, and get it out in 4K. That would be, hopefully, that's one of my dreams. I'd like to do that. So that's what you might have heard. Also, we were very, very close. We were in pre-production to make the sequel, and days before we were going to make the sequel, which was Free Enterprise, The Wrath of Shatner, we lost our funding, literally 2 days before the beginning of principal photography. And when we did the sequel, it took us quite some time for Mark and I to come up with an idea for what the sequel would be, but it was based on something William Shatner said. Now, famously in our movie, William Shatner plays himself. He plays a different version of himself, Bill, and he's kind of a troubled, drinks too much guy. I mean, he's sending up himself, but in more of a serious way. And it was very funny because William Shatner sort of has become the character we portrayed him as in our movie. So back in 2008, 9, 10, when we were initially writing the script for Free Enterprise, the sequel, Free Enterprise, The Wrath of Shatner, I had done some work with Shatner, and I asked him, I said, Bill, if we were going to make a sequel to this movie, what would your character of Bill, what would that entail? And William Shatner says, he stops for a minute, and he's like, I think my character would become a rabbi. And I was like, what? Yeah, a rabbi. That's what I want to be. And I was like, really? And he was like, yep, figure that out. So I mulled over this for a long time, and Mark Altman and I, his son Isaac had recently been born, and we used to go have lunch at this Mexican joint in Culver City. And one day we took Isaac with us, and we're kind of talking about it, and we both, it was one of those moments where we both stopped and looked up a rabbi, and we both had the same idea almost at exactly the same time, and we're like, that's it. And we wrote the script for Free Enterprise, Wrath of Shatner, because we'd written 30 pages of it, and we were going to do it as a TV pilot, and we just didn't have. But then it was all clear to us what the story was. So maybe that's what you heard. But it never got made. We were 2 days away from principal photography. 2 days away, and it was again. The aughts were filled with the best of times, the worst of times. So that's where that comes from. I appreciate the kind words, however, so thank you for that. But there you go. I think, now you know. But Prestonian, thanks for writing in. Mad Villainy writes in. Hi, Rob, and the Post-Geek Singularity. I am a new listener and first-time writer. I'm writing to you today because I find the J.J. Abrams Star Trek trilogy oddly controversial, to put it mildly. As someone who did not grow up with Star Trek, I'm somewhat ashamed to admit that my first real introduction to the Star Trek universe was Abrams' 2009 film. I enjoyed it, and to be honest, I still do. I think, as most seem to, that Into Darkness was a bit of a misstep for the franchise, but Star Trek Beyond was a nice return to form. There is, however, a caveat to my enjoyment of these films. I hate them. I hate everything they represent on an intellectual level. Abrams and company fundamentally misunderstood virtually everything about Gene Roddenberry's vision. It's a disgrace. However, as I've previously stated, these movies are incredibly competent. They have an infectious cast, even if they don't seem to have any idea about the characters they're playing. So I pose the question to you, Mr. Burnett. What do you think? Oh, I love you, man. I want to say, from this letter alone, Mad Villainy, welcome to the Post-Geek Singularity, and welcome to my channel. Our channel, I should say. Thank you very, very much. Are there any movies, books, or even albums you dislike on an intellectual level but can't help but enjoy? Thanks for reading this. I hope I haven't wasted too much of your time, and as it is the 15th of May at the time I'm writing this, happy birthday, Rob. Well, Matt Villainy, you, my friend, and I definitely park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay. I think exactly, you summed it up, that Star Trek '09 was an enjoyable movie on certain levels, but I hate them too. And as you put it, I hate everything they represent on an intellectual level. Abrams and company fundamentally misunderstood virtually everything about Gene Roddenberry's vision, and it's a disgrace. God bless you, sir, for writing that. I agree. But the question that you asked about, is there anything that I dislike on an intellectual level but can't help but enjoy? I wouldn't say necessarily dislike, but I think that there's a lot of, I think when you're an imagination connoisseur, and there's a lot of things that I love, such as, the canon of Godzilla movies. The Showa era has wildly, the original Godzilla era that ends with 1974's Terror of Mechagodzilla. If you watch kaiju films from the 50s up through 74, that Showa era, there's a lot of things that I'm embarrassed to admit. Like, I grew up watching Revenge of Godzilla, which is a terrible movie, and it recycles footage from Destroy All Monsters. It's terrible, but I grew up liking it because I watched it when I was a kid. And it's got stupid shit when Godzilla stomps on Miya's tail to make him finally blow atomic breath instead of his little boop 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 atomic smoke rings. And I still love those films. I even love watching the bad films. I know they're not good, but they're part of a continuum that I enjoy. Even James Bond movies, as I love James Bond movies, I'll watch A Diamonds Are Forever, and I'm just like, this is awful. But it's James Bond, so I'll go with it. So I don't know about books, because I've tended to only read books that I was predisposed to liking. So I've not actually, that isn't true. There is a book that I guess it's the reverse. Let's see. I have to find the name of it. I know the name of the writer. J.F. Gonzalez is the writer, and he is a horror writer. And gosh, I gotta see what the name of the book is that he wrote that I hated. Yeah, I forget. I just forget the name of it. But I read. It was so gross. I mean, it was just so offensive. And I don't get offended easily. But I read it, and when it was over, I hated reading it intellectually. I hated everything about it. But then when it was over, I'm like, I was entertained, even though it was horrific. So, I'll admit that. But I want to point out that Jeff Gonzalez has awards named after him, and I have a number of his books. He wrote a series called Clickers about killer crabs and stuff like that. So I don't know what that says about me. But I think all of us have things, call them guilty pleasures, call them what you want. But yeah, I can recognize, like you, Star Trek '09 is a very well-made movie, and the J.J. Abrams are movies, Star Trek films, are very technically proficient. But my God, they play the Beastie Boys at the end of Star Trek Beyond to destroy alien technology. I mean, it's the idea, like, literally, it's like, well, we played it too loud. Just the stupidest shit ever. I hate it. But I want to welcome you to the channel, and thank you for writing in. Here's an article or a letter that comes from Emil Johansson. Emil says, greetings. I have some thoughts on the DC Cinematic Universe. I refuse to call it the DC EU because I don't like that title. I have a theory on how things could have worked out better and how they could have continued the Snyderverse. I once fantasized about what to do if I was in charge of making a Marvel video game. I immediately wanted to create a cohesive but diverse universe where there were many levels, many worlds, many characters, many storylines, etc., etc. and I had thoughts and imaginationings about all sorts of different aspects, character arcs, story arcs, etc. However, then Spider-Man from Insomniac came out, and they used one character and his lore, and that game was better than what my imagination could produce, and I knew that. So why was that? I think the reason is that instead of having a million small ideas that would have cost an enormous amount of time and money, it's better to sometimes compress and focus these ideas on smaller projects. I think Square Enix did the same mistake with the Avengers game. They had a lot of different scenery and characters and a good plot, but basically it's just one game mechanic, raid through hordes of enemies by smashing combos, and that's it. I think that this might be controversial, but if Zack Snyder had compressed his ideas into a smaller project, it would have been easier for Warner Brothers to safely execute them, and it would have been easier for other storytellers to take their piece of the pie in the canvas. In Batman v Superman, not only does he introduce Wonder Woman, for example, but he gives her a backstory that Patty Jenkins ignores by making Wonder Woman 84. Warner Brothers casts Jason Momoa making Aquaman cool, then James Wan makes him look ridiculous again by putting him in the orange costume. Come on, man, that was awesome. Come on, Emil. That was awesome. These are conflicting ideas thematically and plot-wise, but I don't think Wan or Jenkins was wrong. I think that Snyder should have left Wonder Woman more blank so that Patty could do whatever she wants without breaking canon. That's my theory. I think if the Snyderverse would have been more compressed, more storytellers could have added their voice without breaking the canon, and the Snyderverse could have continued, and the Man of Steel Justice League arc could have been told to its somewhat fuller extent. I do look forward to his and Olivia's North Mythology show on Netflix, and I'm not hung up on what could have been, but those are my thoughts on what should have been. Emil, that's a good idea. Obviously, over the last couple weeks in promotion of Army of the Dead, while promoting it, Zack Snyder has expressed his displeasure at what working on the Snyder Cut was actually like, which is another nail in the coffin. There will be no Zack Snyderverse continuing forward, other than the vestiges of Warner Brothers doing Wonder Woman, a Batman movie with Ben Affleck in it, and The Flash, and also Aquaman moving forward. So the legacy of the Snyderverse is the actors he cast to play those parts that continue on to make movies. So, in a sense, the Snyderverse will continue, albeit not in the form Zack Snyder might have wanted it to, which is a bummer. But this new At&T and the merger deal with Time Warner and Discovery, or Warner Media and Discovery, it's dead. The Snyderverse is dead. Speaking of which, Science and Reason Lover writes in, "Hi, Rob. Mr. Science and Reason Lover here with my second letter. I plan to write more frequently, but I'm currently watching older shows trying to catch up. For reference, I'm watching episode 648 right now, so it will take some time. Consider this a letter to have traveled through time to get to you. Episode 648 aired right after the Snyder Cut was released and is the latest in a long line of shows covering the movie. But I want to offer a different take that I hope no one has discussed between the episode I'm watching and when you read this. My central premise is this. People are now looking at Zack Snyder's work in the DCEU with rose-colored glasses. Zack Snyder's Justice League was going to be a financial disappointment if it was released in 2017 and Warner Brothers knew it. Now some context and history. For a personal context, I'm a big Zack Snyder fan. I enjoyed almost all of his movies, but my favorite is actually the extended cut of Sucker Punch. All right. I'm a fan of Man of Steel. I saw it 3 times in theaters and enjoyed it every time. I do have issues with it that prevent it from being a great movie, but that would be the subject of a different letter. And I really like Zack Snyder's Justice League, maybe even more than Man of Steel. On the other hand, Batman v Superman, especially the theatrical cut, is one of the dumbest mainstream superhero movies I've ever seen. The Ultimate Edition is much better, but still an idiotic movie. From the second I heard they were bringing Batman in for the next movie after Man of Steel, it reeked of a desperate attempt to try and catch up to Marvel. This was all but confirmed when the name of the movie was released. I think only a committee of executives who could come up with Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, and every trailer release left me with a feeling of dread. So my expectations were low going in, and the only reason I saw it in theaters is a friend paid for the ticket, and it was worse than I thought it was going to be. I had absolutely no intention of seeing Justice League after that. As an aside, there are good things in Batman v Superman hidden underneath the stupid character and story choices, and this will also be the subject of another letter, where I break down why it's so stupid in greater detail. And of course, my opinion is not a judgment against anyone who liked the movie. Now for the wider context, I think most people who saw the theatrical cut of BVS would agree with my opinion by and large. And how do I know this? Because the movie didn't make $1 billion. For God's sake, it made $422.5 million in its first weekend. It took off like a rocket at the box office, but then it dropped off a cliff fast. Even the most cynical Man of Steel haters expected BVS to crack $1 billion easy. So why didn't it? There's only a couple of viable reasons. People were super excited to see it, but felt no need to come back and see it again. Repeat viewers are a big source of revenue for these movies, especially since they tend to bring in new people every time they see it. That didn't happen here, and bad word of mouth kept people away who otherwise would have gone to see it. To put it simply, the movie-going audience was not picking up what Zack Snyder was putting down. They just weren't into it. And this was evident after the divisive reaction to the Man of Steel and Batman to the reaction of Madman's blah, blah. This was evident after the divisive reaction to Man of Steel, and BVS cemented it further. Now, Warner Brothers had a problem. They committed to having Zack Snyder work on Justice League and give him a massive budget, but they could see the same things I and many others saw. Warner Brothers had two clear options: go all in with Snyder's vision, or cut ties with his DC work and move on. Unfortunately, they chose neither and found a way to screw themselves over and inflict an injustice against Snyder by interfering with his work. I'm not going to rehash the whole history because most of us are familiar with it, but the way he was treated was truly despicable. I agree. The point of this letter is just to remind those of us who are imagination connoisseurs that many people did not like Zack Snyder's DC work for good reason. I think his work was compromised by the studio, and as soon as Man of Steel failed to meet WB's expectations. But no matter what happened, many people checked out and were no longer interested in where he was taking these characters or the DC universe. Warner Brothers was right to do something, but they failed miserably. Anyway, just my 2 cents. Thanks for reading, Rob. Mr. Science and Reason Lover, trying to bring rational discourse back to fan musings. Well, Science and Reason Lover, I think one of the things that is ridiculous is that movies aren't made in a vacuum. When a studio picture is being made, the executives at the studio can look at the dailies every day. They get dailies every day. When I worked at Warner Brothers in feature production, every day, this is in the ancient times, every day Warner Brothers executives would watch. They would go to a screening after lunch. Usually it began at 2:30, and depending on how many dailies they would watch of all the movies that were being made at Warner Brothers, they would literally screen the dailies of all. If Warner Brothers was making 5 movies at a time, there would be 5 groups of dailies to watch from everything that was shot the previous day. And the executives would sit there for hours and watch them because they had to know how are the movies that they were overseeing turning out. So I don't know if that's the same, but it was back then. So if there's a problem, you could identify that problem. And I worked at Warner Brothers when Bonfire of the Vanities was being made, a movie called Nothing But Trouble that Dan Aykroyd directed. And if you haven't seen that movie, oh boy, please write letters and tell me about that. What do you think of Nothing But Trouble? But these crazy things happen. And I think what was really interesting is the executives at Warner Brothers thought BVS was probably a great movie. They didn't know. So craziness there. Anyway, let's see what you guys are saying. By the way, I hope it was my I wanted to endeavor today to collect a number, like an overview of the articles, to give you guys all a situation, an overview of the situation that was going on at Warner Brothers. I hope I did so, but if you have any other questions, I'm happy to ask them or answer them as best as I can, the best to my ability. Anyway, you guys are here firing in all kinds of chats. Willow is the first out of the gate, says, so it's hashtag Justice for Han Day has finally arrived. I'm honestly looking forward more to seeing your reaction than the actual Fast 9 movie itself. Well, as you know, I love this franchise, but even I, beginning with Fast 6, I think Fast 5 is the greatest of the movies in the franchise, and I love the drift, as we call it. But I, too, it looks like it's going to be utterly ridiculous, but we can't say anything. It's embargoed, but I will, like I told you, you will find out if I feel that Han, if justice was served. Single Parent Gamer sends in a super chat and says, first of all, hello to all the members of the Singularity. Rob, I just want to say I'm proud to be part of the community you have fostered here. What a very nice thing to say. Shalom. Shalom to you. And if anybody is looking around, Tango Shalom, the movie I produced and edited, should be at a film festival. It's coming to the Brooklyn Film Festival. I know it was in Wilmington. It's going to be in Washington, D.C. If you live in the Washington, D.C. area, I believe it's Wednesday, the 26th of May. You can go see Tango Shalom in a drive-in. That's in Washington, D.C. So check that out. I would like to be there. And if you do, by any chance, if you do go to that drive-in event in Washington, D.C., take some video and send it to me because I'll use it on the eventual physical media, hopefully, of Tango Shalom. Jeff Yerke, our friend Jeff Yerke, and Mrs. Y, his wife. Jeff says, "Hello, Rob. Greetings and felicitations. Nothing much to report from NorCal. Continuing to get better. Mr. Yerke broke his back, and he is recovering. And I am psyched to hear your review of Fast 9. Live long and prosper, Mr. and Mrs. Yerkman." Well, Yerk family, it is under embargo, so I can't. I mean, I'm not officially part of the press, but I guess I am kind of. So I can't do a review, but I can offer my opinion on social media. And the fact that they are in fact showing it to us a month in advance, they're probably pretty sure of what we're going to see. So I'll be able to tell you. I will be leaving in 20 minutes to go meet John Campea and Cliff Stevenson. I don't know if Ann Campea is going, but maybe she will be, but could be. The three of us, the four of us, we are going to. I haven't seen John Campea in over a year. The last time I saw John in the flesh was when he and I and Aaron Cummings went out to BJ's for lunch, which was down the street from his house. Last time I saw John. Wolverine626 sends in a super chat and says, "What do you think this deal means for HBO Max? Will Discovery Plus and HBO Max stay separated or become one new streaming service like how the CW was created between the WB and UPN?" That, Wolverine, is a fantastic question. I would imagine, if I had to place a bet, that they are going to become one large streaming service because that's the whole appeal there. And that way, I mean, maybe they'll want to keep them separately, but I would imagine they'd want to have it one big super service. And I thought it was really a mistake to call HBO Max HBO Max. I think they should have taken the Warner Brothers name and used it. I mean, right now, Warner Universe, I don't know if that gets too close to Universal, or Warner Cosmos, or Warner, maybe, what I would call it, I think, just off the top of my head, I'd call it Warner Infinite. Warner Infinite. Why? Because you could do a reference to like 2001 Stanley Kubrick, even though it's an MGM movie. Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite. Warner Infinite. That's what I would call their streaming service. If it was up to me, that's my name. Please, you can take it if you want to use it. Warner Infinite. That would be the name of the new streaming service. And you could make a great thing out of it. Like you could even do like at the new Warner Brothers logo where they actually show you the lot, the Warner Brothers back lot with the water tower. You could do something like that and rocket into. You could hyperspace skip into space. That's what I would do. I think it's going to be one thing. Todd Michael says $40 million Paramore estate on Innis this afternoon, man. Now that's a house I can handle. Great character, great views, and great landscaping, and far grander a place for $40 million than the soulless one last week. Time to sell those hot toys in 4Ks and to make an offer. Well, Todd Michael, for those of you who do not know, one of my other favorite things to do is watch YouTube now. And Inez, I-N-E-I-N, Inez is Inez Yilmzer. It's Enesylm. He has a channel where he tours luxury homes and properties, mostly in Southern California, but he's gone up to California. He's gone up to San Francisco, and he's gone up to Tahoe, and he's gone to New York. But if Elizabeth and I love watching those videos. But I don't know, Todd Michael. I don't think I've owned enough in the world to ever sell enough that I can make enough bank. I mean, I'd be happy to afford. Elizabeth sent me her dream home, which is $2 million. Well, I've got about $200 in my bank account, so that ain't happening anytime soon. But it's good to dream. A 200-watt studio sends in a super chat and says, AT&T did the right thing. Sell now before J.J. Abrams trashes the place and brings the sale value down. Like selling your house before renters trash it. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if those kinds of deals are retained. I don't know. The delightful she sends in a super chat. And if you have been watching the late night midnight metal streams, has been on the show. She's a delightful woman. Love streaming with her. Thanks for the super chat. Mr. Intellectual sends in 1 of 3. 1 of 3. Sir Rob, you have me quite perplexed. This lateralization is about the world war in streaming. I mean, we are in an agreement, right? Warner Brothers have been completely mismanaged as much as they never gave it respect, so naming it Warner Max would have been laughed at in a strategy meeting. This move is the right move. Think about it. The media giants know full well the war is being fought in international markets, not in the U.S., as you and others allude to on your channels. The U.S. market is small in comparison. Yeah, that's absolutely right, which is why Discovery has a worldwide presence, and it really makes sense for this to happen. I'm looking for... finally, Disney and WB have revealed their cards. Like any good mystery, this story's villain is Netflix. How, you say? These calculated moves are simply to gain content and competitive stance. My former messages have aged very well. Touché, Sir Rob. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, you know, the one thing that Netflix didn't have, we've talked about, is legacy product. They had to license everything. And I really thought at one point, when they had announced a deal with Paramount, they were going to put Paramount Films on their platform, that I thought they were going to buy Paramount, but they didn't. But yeah, this is all about the worldwide streaming wars. I completely agree with that. 100%. It's always been about, I mean, I don't know, it's never been about the American market. It's been about the worldwide market, and it's always been about the worldwide market, not the United States market. And because like you said, there's only so many, 350 million people here? I mean, Netflix, they already have over 200 million subscribers. So they're well on their way to counting the entire population of the United States as part of their streaming numbers. But yeah, this is, make no mistake, it is actually exactly what you said. It's about worldwide penetration, and Discovery has that. So, and that's something HBO Max didn't. But I do think that they should have called the streaming service Warner Brothers something, because Warner Brothers has that 100-year plus prestige about it. 200 Watt Studio sends in a super chat and says, maybe now we'll get a Watchmen season 2. Ooh, I hope not. but maybe, one never knows. Nick Parrish says, what's up, Rob? I feel terrible because I've been sending super chats in for a while now, but forgot to send one in on your birthday. Oh, Nick, don't worry about that. So happy belated birthday, Grand Overseer Rob, and I appreciate you always enlightening us and engaging us through YouTube. Well, Nick, that you can't give me higher praise. If I'm engaging you and helping you learn things via YouTube, you know, that's the best I can do. I mean, I don't consider myself any kind of a teacher or a prophet or anything like that. I just try to bring things to you folks, all you people out there that are watching now, that I find interesting. And hopefully, if I find them interesting, you'll find them interesting. 200 Watt Studio sends in a super chat and says, the new Discovery Warner show will be my 600-pound merger. Yeah, we're sure to get more of those. Louis Terrazas sends in a super chat and says, Rob, I couldn't disagree more. Halston was trophy. Okay, Louis, I have to disagree with you. I thought Halston was well made. I loved the original score, but I don't think it offered any insight that we haven't seen in a dozen different movies. I liked watching it. I loved Ewan McGregor, but I mean, to me, it was so superficial, and I waited to get some kind of, but to be fair, some kind of insight. But I liked watching it. I watched all 5 episodes, and I thoroughly enjoyed the performances. I liked a lot of the actors. I read an article today, I think it was in the Hollywood Reporter, a review that I thought was pretty spot on. It really captured what I think of the whole show. But I enjoyed watching it. I was entertained. I just think it was very good. Terrier Tiberius Mork, all the way from Norway, says, Warner, bruh. You're going to need a bigger boat for Shark Week. Deep Blue Meg, hosted by King Shark. That's actually a pretty... They should do that. They should absolutely do Shark Week and have King Shark host it. And, of course, you'll have to have Sylvester Stallone do the voice. That would actually be... I like that idea. Mr. Intellectual says, remember, Sir Rob, Reed Hastings said over and over about competition once they had vanquished Blockbuster, I'll rape and kill anyone before they do it to me. Plus, there are always moles who they would try and poach from other studios. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I just think that Netflix is, look, now they're doing very, very well. I think now they've settled in on a groove. I still think they're spending too much money. I mean, that Knives Out deal, they can't sustain that kind of growth to pay for those kinds of things. But who knows? Alexander Wilson says Amazon is in discussions to acquire MGM. That dropped minutes ago. Did it? I haven't heard that. That makes sense. I mean, MGM's been on the block forever. It really depends how much of their catalog they retain, but I think for Amazon that would be helpful. Let's see, MGM, Amazon. Let's see if it's shown up anywhere. Ooh, indeed it is. Wow, big day. Reuters is reporting. Thank you for this information, Alexander. Reuters says this dropped at 3:48 on Reuters minutes ago. So breaking news. Amazon is in talks to acquire the iconic U.S. movie studio MGM. The information reported on Monday, citing a person familiar with the matter. The status of Amazon's discussions with MGM is unclear, and it is possible no deal may result. The movie studio behind the James Bond franchise also owns the Epix cable channel and makes TV shows, including popular shows like The Handmaid's Tale, Fargo, Vikings, and Shark Tank. Amazon declined to comment on the report, saying it doesn't comment on rumors or speculation. In December, Reuters reported that the movie studio was exploring a sale and had tapped investment banks Morgan Stanley and LionTree LLC and started a formal sale process. Well, I mean, Amazon buying a studio is probably a long time coming, so I don't find that surprising in the least. Wow, what big days today was for this information. Amazing. Roger H. sends in a super chat. Why, thank you, Roger H. I very much appreciate that. Very nice of you. Mexican Iron Man, my man, Mexican Iron Man is here, sent me a super chat. Thank you, sir. While I'm not sure which I like better, RMB talking Shatner or RMB sporting some cool Pachuco Zoot Suit level facial hair. Pachuco, that's Edward James Olmos' character, right? His narrator, the character from the movie Zoot Suit, which you can't go wrong with that. I saw that movie back when it came out in 1981, and growing up in Seattle, we had no real Latino or Chicano culture, so man, I like that movie a lot. If you haven't seen it, it's set in the 1940s, and it's about the Zoot Suit riots. But man, Edward James Olmos was dressed. He was one suave motherfucker in that movie, let me tell you. So 6 hours till tax season hell ends. It's true. So hail the great Post-Geek Singularity community and hail the super wrenches. Love you, Rob. Well, thank you, sir. I love you, too. Love goes right back at you. Andrew Nathan sends in a super chat. Rob, maybe this Warner Discovery deal brings about a comeback for Jeff Robinov, the former Warner Brothers executive that Toby replaced. He was responsible for the relationship that Warner Brothers had with Nolan and other talent. I actually met him once. I flew on a private jet with Jeff Robinov and Bryan Singer. That could very well be. Or Alan Horn. I'm not going to lie. I know he's retired, but I would love to see Alan Horn go back to Warner Brothers just because Alan Horn... I'm retired. Well, Bob Iger calls him. Oh, come to Disney. Oh, okay. Now I'm retired. Warner Brothers calls. Hey, can you come back? I'd love to see that. It would be amazing. Todd Michael says, I have heard the word discovery spoken on this channel more today than I ever thought possible. Now get thee to a cinema and go watch you some testosterone-filled drivers go vroom, vroom on the screen. And I will. I'm going to do that in a few minutes here. Andrew Nathan still got me cracked up. I mean, the idea of Romanoff's not a bad choice, by the way. Maybe he would come back. They need somebody like that to run that studio. They do. Terrier says, I've started storyboarding my short Kelvin Timeline box set, A Tale of Revenge and Abuse, coming summer 2021. I would love to see that. You should make your own box set about the Kelvin Timeline movies and call it just that, A Tale of Revenge and Abuse against the audience. Stub McShave says, I hated what they did with the Hulk in Endgame. The only reason he's interesting is the internal and external conflicts that's created by him losing control. When they took away that conflict by giving him control of himself, they neutered him as a character. I don't know if I agree with you. I just think they turned him into a different kind of a character, and they can always have him lose control again. But, that's right out of the comic books. They've had that happen before and since, so maybe not so strange. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was kind of fun. But I know that a lot of people, I don't think you're wrong about the conflict that the Hulk has. I don't think you're incorrect, but I was kind of there for it. I really enjoyed the conflict being sort of resolved, and he was kind of fun. And you know what? I think they used Thor and Hulk. If they didn't have those characters in there and like the funny going through the quantum realm with Ant-Man changing, it would have been so dreary. I mean, my God, it would have been so oppressive. They needed that humor. And I thought so. Cinema says, I wasn't around last week, so I just wanted to drop in and say happy birthday, Rob. So yeah, happy birthday, Rob. Well, Cinema, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And thanks for supporting me and the channel. Jason S. says, Hollywood never demands representation for ugly people. I guess hot actors having to look ugly all the time or demanding they be replaced with real ugly actors is just too far of an inclusion line for them to cross. Make Hollywood ugly on the outside, too. That's very funny, Jason. I'll tell you this. I remember Dario Argento. I tried to find this once before, but the horror film director. Let me see if I can find this. See if I can find it. Let's see. I can never find it when I want to, but I remember when, yeah, it doesn't say anything. I can't find it. But I remember once reading that Dario Argento, when he had charges of misogyny leveled at him about the way how he kills beautiful women in his movies, he said something to the effect of, "Well, I'm making movies. Why would I want to kill ugly women?" I just thought that was it was something along those lines, and obviously an incendiary thing to say, cheeky for sure. But I mean, I think the very definition of a movie is you don't want to watch normal people. I don't want to watch everyday people. Although, as the viceroy of verisimilitude, I think that the best movies are made. Like I've often said on the show, I find teen movies today hard to watch because people are so beautiful in them. Like they get the most beautiful kids in the world, and I'm like, for me, one of the great first modern day youth movies that I love was Jaws 2, because the kids all were goofy looking. Even Ann Dusenberry, the hot girl, she looked normal. She was beautiful, and everyone thought she was beautiful, but she was beautiful in a normal, realistic, I believe this character, I believe in her. And I like that. And nowadays, to me, everything that has young kids in it, everyone looks like they're all models. And even the people that are supposed to be either overweight or something, even they look good. So, you might be right. Never demands representation for ugly people. But would people go see movies if the only people that were in them were quote-unquote ugly people? Anonymous says, hey, Rob, what are your thoughts on the Gal Gadot situation? Thanks. I would assume you meant her support of Israel during this time. I mean, Gal Gadot's former ex-IDF. So, I was watching a British general talk about today on YouTube that the IDF, of all the armies in the history of humanity, they are the only army that when they take action, they go out of their way to prevent civilian casualties, including and not limited to, but calling up the people in buildings they're about to bomb so people can get out. And he was talking about that because he'd work with and was speaking about some of their techniques, how they'll drop a concussion charge on a bomb on a building if people haven't gotten out yet. I think that she's Israeli and she's ex-IDF, and she's supporting the fact that, remember, the hostilities, these recent hostilities, really began, I mean, without finger pointing, but the shooting war that developed was because Hamas, they, once again, based on certain unrest that was happening on the ground, they just started firing rockets. Once again, they're Iranian-backed rockets into Israel. And I always ask people, what would you think we would do if one of our neighbors just started rocketing U.S. territory? But yes, I think that there needs to be measured response. But it's a bad situation all around, and it's very, very, very unfortunate. But as far as Gal Gadot goes, I mean, she's Israeli, and she's supporting her country, and she's supporting the actions that the IDF took. And I know there's a lot of people that it's unpopular now, but they call Israel an apartheid state. It is not. Remember, there are 14 Arab members of the Israeli Knesset, their ruling body. So it's a tough one to get in charge. Look, the loss of life is hideous. It shouldn't be happening. And it's a bummer. It's a bummer all the way around. And, the loss of one life is horrible, but the loss of life and the destruction happening. But then again, Hamas is staging their missiles with using human shields. I am not a fan of Hamas, and their tactics are despicable. Alexander Wilson goes on to say, Tango Shalom is playing at the Washington Jewish Film and Music Festival in D.C. It's showing at the drive-in at Union Market in D.C. on the 26th. Union Market is very hippie. It's like a part of San Francisco that was transported to D.C. Well, if ever there was a time for Tango Shalom, which is a film that actually preaches religious tolerance and acceptance, I am proud that it is streaming in the nation's capital at a drive-in, especially after what's going on in the Middle East, in Israel right now. I'm very, very happy because one of my favorite scenes in the movie is a scene where Moshe Yehuda goes to speak to an imam. But thanks for that, Alexander. I'm happy to be involved, to have produced a film that I also edited, that I spent years of my life on. That's literally a film that talks about tolerance amongst all people. So you can see that. There you go. Stub McShave says the new streaming service could be called Discovery Warner Streaming. Or something like that. It could be. I was just hoping for something a little cooler, like Warner Brothers Infinite or Warner Infinite, because that would be cool. Nick Paris says, breaking news, Rob, amid the AT&T forfeit in the Hollywood battle, Deadline has just reported that sources tell the site that Dune will have an exclusive theatrical run for an unknown period of time in October. Wow, that's cool. I knew that was going to happen, but I'm very excited about that. Louis Terrazas says, Rob, I'm a business student but studied film in undergrad. I think, like you, that especially in creative business, it requires out-of-the-box thinking. But I would say, what I would say to my peers who argue otherwise or say that it's obvious an MBA should run a studio. Well, I thought that you ended it because there's no period there. But yes. But what would you say to my peers who? Oh, I see. But what would you say to my peers who argue otherwise or say that it's obvious an MBA should run a studio? Well, I mean, that's corporate speak. They want people. They want Ivy League trained MBAs to run their studios, and why not? Because there's a lot of money. But I think that there's got to be co-chairs, or there's got to be people that understand the movie business, because you still have to make great movies, and part of making great movies is talent relationships. So, but I do think people that MBAs are obviously needed. but maybe not dealing with the creative folks. Just Plain Steve sends in a super chat and says, on the subject of Hulk, be thankful they went with Professor Hulk and not mid-90s, high and tight, having polo shirt wearing bachelor party Hulk. Yeah, like in Vegas, Mr. Fix-It or The Fixer. Anonymous says, in regards to Gal Gadot, there is a cancel campaign and talk of her not wanting to be canceled like Gina Carano. Well, I don't think she should be canceled. I don't understand people who want to cancel other people. I just don't understand that. If you don't like what somebody was saying, okay, you can object to that, write an op-ed or something. But why cancel? Why do people want to destroy people's lives? I mean, are you going to dislike somebody for being being nationalistic toward their own country? I think it's not good. It's not good. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gentle souls, kind beings across the 28 known galaxies, I'm bringing this episode of Robservations, episode number 489, to a close. I am off to meet John Campea and Cliff Stevenson. My God, my second movie in 15 months in a theater. Oh, my God, I'm so excited. I am going to see Fast 9. And I'm very excited. I want to thank my moderating staff for being here. I want to thank Mike Bodden. I want to thank The Richard. I want to thank Bunyan Snipe. Darren J. Seeley is here. Joshua Levesque is here. Maybe Louise X. Sparrow is here. I don't see her, but maybe she is. Yes, she is. Yeah. Good to see you, Louise. Thanks for being here. I want to thank all of my moderators for doing a fantastic job. I want to thank all of you for supporting the channel via super chats and tips. You can write me a letter at the Burnettwork.net website where there's all kinds of crazy content where you can send me a letter and you can read other people's letters. There's all kinds of stuff to see and participate in. And for those of you who become members of the channel, you can become a member of the channel for $1 a month. Thank you for becoming members. We had another great Zoom chat. We have bi-weekly Zoom chats. Is it every other week? Is that bi-weekly? We have Zoom chats every other week, live. I love seeing all your faces. It was a lot of fun, so we're going to do another one of those. I don't know if we can do it in 2 weeks, but we might because Roberto Suarez is gone, but I will work something out. And then when we don't do Zoom chats, I do Spoiler Saturdays, so join us. And remember, tonight is the first episode of Robservations Midnighter, a new show. We'll see how it goes. A show that's going to focus primarily on you imagination connoisseurs. I love having people on the show. We'll talk what you want to talk about. Robservations Midnighter, episode 1, begins at midnight tonight. That's right. Very excited to start a new show. It's not going to go for 4 hours. We're going to keep these shows between 90 minutes and 2 hours because I have to get up and do the John Campea show. But I'm up anyway, so I figured why not start a new late-night show? We've been having so much fun on Midnight Metal. I don't have to scream and yell as much, and I'm certainly not going to drink alcohol like I do on the weekends, but that's okay. The Robservations Midnighter will start tonight. Join us if you want. And remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear, and all you have to do is listen. And with that, I would say to all of you, have a better day. I know I am because I am going to see Justice for All. I'm so excited. I can't wait.